Today on Inside Board Games, we're going to be talking to Australia's second most famous Paul. Paul Bedford of Hard Fun Games. Now, I don't know when people are going to be watching this, so, you know, it's up to you now to become the second most famous Paul to come out of Australia.
Well, how many are there? Oh, so there's Paul Hogan, and there's me, which isn't bad considering that Paul was the fifth most popular name in 1970. So for us to rise through the ranks, Mr. Hogan and I, to rise through the ranks to be number 1 and 2, and I'm planning on taking him down. Maybe not personally, but I aim to be number 1. I'd probably just roll on him dropping dead. But anyway, nice to be here, Jason. Nice to be here, Jason. Thank you for the interview and your time. I appreciate it. I look forward to chatting to you.
That almost took a turn right off the bat there. And I was going to ask you how you're doing today, but this time thing. I'm in the Detroit area, and you are in Melbourne. So It is Friday night here. So it is
Saturday afternoon here.
Saturday afternoon, but 2028, right?
Yeah, we are in the future, so I can already tell you how this interview went.
Yeah.
It went very, very well until you did that thing with the thing, which I won't reveal now because it's a spoiler. But we recovered. We did all right.
I was going to ask you. Look, I've got a foolproof plan to get rich. Give me my lottery numbers for tomorrow, and I'll play those numbers tomorrow, and I'll split it with you.
I've done that before. It landed me in jail, so that's pretty bit. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry, mate. I don't want to mess with the past anymore. It really has messed up my future personally, and I didn't see my kid for 4 years, so you know.
So I promise at some point in this interview we will get to your games and the stuff.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to.
But
okay, we can.
With anything else. I have to geek out just a little bit because Australia is kind of like the only thing on my bucket list of place I want to go. Yep. And I'm just one of those things. Just always wanted to go, and just been kind of fascinated by a place that is just so far from where I am, and so different yet same. So what's it like? Melbourne is like 5 million people.
Yeah, we've got about 5 or 6 million in Melbourne. Basically, the English kicked us out and sent us to paradise. So we're like, we'll stick around here. We've got, like, at the moment, I imagine you guys are in the depths of winter in Michigan. Is that correct?
No snow yet, but...
No snow yet? Okay. Well, it's 28 degrees Celsius here, which is... I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit. Maybe around the 90s? Is that around the 90s? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
But it can get it can get pretty warm here. We can get up to I think about 45 is about the highest, which I think is about 110, 20 for you guys.
Good.
I don't know a direct translation, but look, it's lovely. It's great. Come on down. It's we and if a war breaks out, we're gonna be the last one to be bombed. So there's so many good
That's
points
always nice.
to living in Australia. And we're right down the bottom, except for Tasmania, who no one remembers. So we're right down the bottom. The only thing you got to watch out for.
I would think that'd be colder down there. I mean, you are within. I mean, looking on a map, it's like from Detroit to Miami looks about the same distance as Melbourne to the shores of Antarctica. Is it farther?
I've never personally measured the distance from here to Antarctica, but I'll make a point to do it after the interview. It's what we get is a mix of cool weather in winter, but it's always dry. Like when you go up north, Queensland, all that, it's very heavy humidity, and people. I'm not a fan of that. I've been there a few times. Lovely place. Up there, they've got all the nasty animals. Like the sharks and the crocodiles, and down here we have the other nasty ones, like directly across the road at the park where I live. Since I moved here 3 years ago, there's been sighting of 4 brown snakes, which is, I think number 2 most dangerous in the world. So there's no, and I literally, I can send you photos if you want to do this. I get kangaroos on my nature strip because I put out water for the animals.
You're messing with me. I
am absolutely not. I've got photos. Because we are in a relatively new state. So I will send you photos, and you can say, look, it's true. They literally bounce down the street. I have to stop sometimes because they're running around,
But
hopping around.
In a city of 6 million people, I mean, how?
I'm sort of where we are. I mean, to bring some truth to the story, we are on the cusp of suburbia. So okay. I'm not too far from cows and sheep and farms and all that, but we are, it's only a 20-minute drive to Melbourne itself.
In fact, so you're in kind of like a different city, but not within Melbourne.
Yeah, out of suburbia. Out of suburbia.
Okay, yeah, that's I say Detroit, but I mean nobody knows where what the suburbs are around here. So it's,
okay, which suburb is it?
Sterling Heights.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure you do. When you're flying over Detroit, you can't really tell where Detroit ends and where it begins because all the suburbs are just so sprawling.
Oh, like LA.
Yeah. Like
okay. Yeah.
The opposite of that is like Indianapolis, where it's like farmland, city. It's
right.
pretty much it's kind of it's weird.
Very different. Everywhere in America seems to be vastly different from the next place. What I see. Yeah.
Are you a sports fan? I when I was I was researching Australia and trying to get a sense so I wouldn't sound too stupid. And I came across something that made me laugh out loud. And I'm wondering, are you a big sports fan?
Look, funnily enough, I'm a fan of an American sport called basketball. You may have heard of.
Yep.
Because my son plays basketball.
Oh, okay.
And since he started, I mean, before he started, I knew nothing about basketball. Didn't really watch it. I follow the AFL, not religiously, the Australian Football League, not religiously. And once he got into it, I started to appreciate the sport, and now I really enjoy it. We sit down and watch old games together, and he's got his favourites, Devin Booker and Curry, Steph Curry. They're his favourite players. They're his favourite players, and LeBron James. Okay. He's a very good basketballer. Aside from that, I watch. I'm a bit of a, what do you guys call it over there? Is the word redneck? I don't know if it's redneck or not. Over here it's bogan. But I love having a couple of beers and watching UFC, just watching big men.
Oh, UFC? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Love that sort of gear.
I guess that could be within the realm of redneck culture.
Yes. Yeah, that's fine. I'll embrace that. I mean, I've got my nerd side and I've got my redneck side, and like you just must strive for balance. Right. I mean, I got the bald head and the goatee, so it's
The reason I was asking is that I ran across this article about there's the Aussie, oi, sports cheer, and I was gonna ask you about this. I was gonna try to make a joke about it, but like the truth is funnier than fiction, because I read this article, and I'm gonna read it. It says the Australian Olympic Committee has announced a new chant for the 2024 Paris Olympics, hoping Australians get on board with Ali's Aus, meaning Go Australia. Some night's host John Stanley says the chant is better than the current go-to Aussie, oi, calling the classic phrase an embarrassment.
I have already forgotten what it was. That's not going to catch on. The more Australians are naturally apparently anti-authoritarian, so if you try and tell us to do something, we're just going to do the opposite. That's going nowhere. The reason
I laughed out loud when I saw that is I'm like, if there's one thing that sports fans love, it's when some guy from a committee or a marketing focus group tells them how to enjoy the sport they love.
Bring it on, mate. Yeah, bring it on. Well done. Yeah.
I was like,
it's already buried. It's already buried. I've already forgotten it, and it's too close. It's
some guy is sitting in a warehouse with 1 million T-shirts that say that, and he's just like, "Oh, come on! Someone's got to help me make this catch on. I got to sell these T-shirts."
If he sends me a free T-shirt, we'll edit the video, and I'll just be all for it. I'll be like, "That's amazing." Whatever it was, I can't remember. You can edit that in over my voice as well, and we'll go from there. I'm all in. Give me a Facebook page.
I just thought that
Or
was,
design a game around it. Yeah.
yeah. Let's talk about all right, let's talk about a few board game things before the topic starts getting on huge spiders.
Right.
I did see on I mentioned before when we were chatting that social media may have misled me because I keep seeing all these things on TikTok, where it's someone will show like a picture, people show all the jokes of obviously fake spiders and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But I saw this one picture that haunts me to this day, and it was someone's backyard, and there's like a picnic table and like grass, and there was like this like mist over everything.
Yeah.
And they said
The
that
spiders make the mist. Yep.
it was what?
The spiders make the mist just for effect.
Yeah, they said, oh yeah, this is all. I forget what they called it, but it's like, oh yeah, this is all spider webs that you see like in the morning, like when the dew hits them, or.
Oh, okay. No, they've got you there. They've got you there. That's not something I've encountered.
Okay.
Yeah. I have seen images of paddocks, like fields with spider webs in them.
Yeah.
But I thought you might have been referring to the pictures of like people with huntsmen's on their walls and stuff, and they're no exaggeration. You've got dinner plate size spiders. However, they're not of all the spiders. They are the most non-aggressive, and they're non-venomous. So they just look terrifying, and they're fast. They're so fast.
See, but, I don't care if they're ugly and fast. That's yeah.
Look, I should be perpetuating the myth here, saying, look, if they're in your suburb, move out. Just if you encounter one of these things, just throw one of your kids at it and run. That's why we have kids down here. We usually start with 4 or 5, and by the time one or two might get through.
You don't have to outrun the spider. You just have to outrun your kids.
That's all you've got to do. Yeah, and that's easy at a certain age. I got some caltrops in my pocket. I just throw them out. You've got to prepare for an encounter with a huntsman. It's the small ones you got to worry about. It's the funnel webs and the redbacks. But I don't live in Sydney, and I wouldn't because they've got funnel webs. And redbacks, I see them all the time in the garage, but they're a pretty shy little spider. But like I was saying when we were having a little bit of pre-chat before, it's the snakes that are the concern. And there's quite a few around here. I speak of my neighbour, and he goes walking out. We've got bush right around us, and he's seen 4 or 5 of the browns and tigers, and they're not to be messed with. Like they will try and run if given the chance.
Right.
But they'll drop you in a minute. You're dead. So we're just really careful. Like in the playground across the road, there's been sightings of 4 brown snakes.
Jeez.
But look, I'm still alive. They're rare. There's millions of people, so not everyone's being
right.
killed by.
Yeah, it's
probably like America. I look at like Florida with their 600-foot alligators walking around. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not living there. But at least you can see those ones coming.
Yeah. Down in Florida, everyone's got their exterminator. Everyone's got.
Oh my.
Because there's
really, okay.
There's a lot of other bugs and insects down there that because it's so hot and humid, they get pretty big. I mean, there's a lot of geckos down there that eat them. I've been down there just for visits, and I've never had an issue. But it's sort of like I'm sure that if you live down there,
surely the odds,
like up here, no one leaves their house in January and February because it's so cold. But friends of mine that live down there, they say, no one leaves their house in July and August because it's just too hot.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, understandable. And I've seen pictures of like mountain lions with trackers and bears and all that sort of stuff. They're the ones that scare me. You don't have much of a chance against those guys.
It's a dangerous world.
Yeah, absolutely it is. But, still fun.
But, so I wanted to get back to, get away. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to reduce you to a stereotype. If Americans are known for one thing, it's being culturally sensitive and not reducing people to stereotypes. So in that vein, tell me about your first game.
My first game, all right. It's still surreal to me. I was 25 when it came out. I was 22 when I went to uni, dropped out, started working at a cafe. Went to a mate's house. I mean, prior to this, I played D&D and played a few other board games, and I wasn't an obsession or anything.
Sure.
And he had a base idea for a Mad Max based sort of game. When I say Mad Max Road Warrior, most Americans know that
Okay, so
movie and Mel Gibson and all that sort of gear.
I just said we're going to keep this highbrow. We're not going to reduce you to an American stereotype.
And here we go.
Here we go.
So he had a basic idea for that, and we started playing it, and people liked it. It's a very simple game. Oh, look, conveniently enough, Jason, I have a copy right here. Look at me. I'm such a good interviewee. Interviewee.
Interviewee. You're the E this time.
Yeah. Here we go. So that's
some aggressive artwork.
That is, yeah. It's. I mean, we had some nicer artwork, but when Mattel took it on, they're Mattel, and they sort of, as you can, I'll just bring it back here. You can see this guy here looks a little like Ken out of Ken and Barbie.
Yeah.
But this came out the very year. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, because just to reduce you guys to a stereotype, you'll have shooting each other over there. So we had a big massacre down here in Tasmania, the Port Arthur massacre,
okay.
And that happened a few months before this was released. And so Mattel, being super sensitive company, and fair enough too,
sure,
they changed the artwork. Like this guy here had a big chain coming out of his hand. This guy had a rifle across his back. I think this lady had a bazooka, and he had some weapons, all that sort of gear.
Yeah.
But they pulled all that, and also any interviews we did. I'm talking like 1996. Mm-hmm. So any interviews we did, such as on radio and newspaper and that, we weren't allowed to mention any violence in the game. I'm like, it's called Road Warrior. This is you're making it a little tough. What do you do in the game? Right, you just drive around. And you, like in the actual game, you're throwing bazookas at each other and rifles and caltrops and smoke screens. It's basically Road Warrior in a board.
Like the movie,
in a board game. Yeah, like the movie. Like Thunder Road and Car Wars and that, which I've never played any of them. And strangely enough, by bouncing back and forth, we got to Mattel, and they I thought it was my daughter, sorry, or my son. They may wander in. They liked it, and they took it on, and it was incredibly surreal to go from not knowing what the hell I was doing with my life to this huge company going, we really like your game. And I go, okay.
How big was that game?
Look,
I mean, you don't have to give me numbers.
Yeah,
I
think
was
it sold around. I think it wasn't huge. I think it sold around 10,000 or something like that,
okay.
Which isn't too. Look, at one stage, there were a couple of factors that went into it not being a great seller. Number one is it's not a great game. It's got like,
that'll hurt you.
It's got exactly right. Always good to have a good, if you want to have a good sales, invent a good game. That's it. It got made. So it's got all the things that players of these days love. It's got roll to move. It's got missed turns. It's got massive randomization. It's way too long. It's unbalanced. But my mates and I, we were just sitting around having beers on Friday nights and playing and just having a ball, and Mattel were never going to take on Twilight Imperium. They're not that sort of company. So this is a lightweight, drive around, dice chucker, drink beers, have a few chips, and have a laugh.
Right.
It's like if people want to look it up on BGG, it gets the reviews it deserves. But I was young. I was young and needed the money.
I have that number in front of me from Point Game Geek.
Yeah. So I think I put my own review on there, and I was pretty honest. I was pretty much saying what I just said then. But my mates and I, we still play it, and I received a message from some random guys over in I can't remember the name of the suburb now, and they said, "Hey, Paul, we've been playing a game for 20 years, every month we've gone through 3 boards. We've gone through this many. We keep having to get. We absolutely love it, and I'm like, you have absolutely made my life. This is amazing. Every year, like there are 2 couples, like a couple of husband and wife. They get together not every year. Every week they get together and they play Rogue Warrior. I'm like, that's all I needed. That's all I needed. That's pretty cool.
It doesn't matter what the review was on Board Game Geek if people are enjoying it, and it's that's what it's all about.
Yeah, even if it's very, very few people, Jason. Yeah. But it was a blast to see your game in Toys R Us and Kmart and whatever else you drive around. It's incredible.
And that was your first
surreal.
That was your first go right out of college, right?
First go. Never designed a game before, and so I'm like, okay, cool. And then I waited 25 years to start another one. So prolific isn't the word, Oh man.
What do you do in the meantime? I mean, obviously, board game design is.
Can't remember.
Is board game design your sole job right now?
No, it isn't. So what did I do in the meantime? That's an excellent question. I bounced. I did quite a few different sort of jobs. I lived in Japan.
Nice.
I wrote a graphic novel.
I want to get into that a little bit. A little bit.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I went out a lot. I was just a typical sort of 20, 30-year-old who hung out and went to parties and bars and whatever. But I also had this incredible nerd side where I enjoyed playing, like the deeper sort of video games like your Rome Total War and, the economic sort of sprawling, tactical games and things like that. So I always had it, and always had a love for it. And I do have a lot of memories of when I was younger designing games, and I played D&D when I was younger, and I did the whole fighting fantasy books. I don't know if you played them. I've still got the first one. 1 second. I still got Warlock of Firetop Mountain.
Not familiar with that one.
Okay, so I think that's
Steve Jackson.
Steve Jackson and Livingston, yeah, absolutely. But the Steve Jackson who started Games Workshop, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that really, when I was 12 years old, that really just blew my mind. And I think I played that book 40 or 50 times. And it just, that cemented my indelible love of all things gaming. So I did play a lot of games, but I never sat down to design until I had the idea for Hunted by God, which sort of hit me out of the blue.
And are you like a graphic designer by day or something totally not?
No, I'm just I was a warehouse manager for a while. I worked in warehousing. I worked in facilities management. Nothing to do with the creative side at all, aside from writing graphic novels.
Yeah. But you're swimming in a very creative pool. Because Sydney has the Opera House, but my understanding is that Melbourne is considered the kind of the cultural and artistic capital of, that's where the arts kind of are.
We'll take that. They can have a building. We're the brilliant ones. Yeah. It's like the comic scene down here was massive. I sort of walked into I think with my graphic novel, The List. And that was also never read comics, but I just wrote a comic, and that's 200 pages psych horror. When I produced that, it seemed like the comic scene had sort of entered a new age, and it had gone from very small, niche, and inward-facing insular to starting to get mainstream acceptance, and especially with regards to the movies and everything coming out. But we do have a very strong artistic hub down here. I think it's because Sydney get the nice weather, and 9 months of the year it's cooler here, so we stay inside and do nerd stuff, which is absolutely fine with me. The colder it is, the happier I am. Give me rain, give me thunderstorms. I'll sit inside and play games and make stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's if it's a beautiful day outside, it's just like, all right, what outside stuff am I compelled to do?
I mow those lawns now.
Yeah, I bring on the rain, so it's like, oh, darn it, can't go out and cut the lawn.
Oh, what a shame. Yeah, look, after the garage is falling down, it's just going to stay falling down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I love a day where, I just sit here and just potter away. I'll get up silly early in the morning and do a few hours in the morning and muck around with the kids and then go to work. And yeah, it's lovely.
Okay. So let's let's get into Hunted by a God, because that's kind of
Okay.
what is most intriguing to me. So 25 years went by, and then you had another idea for this, or was it something you've been mulling around for a long time?
No, hadn't been mulling around for long at all. It was like 2018 when I had the initial concept spring to mind, and I think the concept of being hunted by a god it seems to have its immediate appeal comes from the fantastical nature of it. Um, I think the hook is. I think it comes from maybe something primal. We all have those fears or dreams where we're being chased or beaten up by something that we can't get away, and it's unstoppable. It sounds like a Terminator. It's unstoppable. It won't stop. It's unbeatable. Whether it's Terminator, whether it's something in your dream, whether it's some just
Election
power that is
season.
after you. I missed that.
Election season.
Election season. That's not as bad down here. We didn't spend the whole year of the 3 years doing it. Yeah, and we don't. Well, we do have to vote down here, but yeah. But the idea basically came from Hunted by a God is, if you want me to get more into detail of it, is a tactical sci-fi game, probably around medium weight. Um, Essentially, the idea is that you are one of four ancient galactic empires, and you hunt the universe for resource. Now, and the four empires, we've actually got six in design, but there's four in the base game. They come to a particular planet, and they believe the planet to be barren. And when they start their mining, that awakens a dormant god, which quickly makes these powerful empires feel not so powerful. And the god, essentially, the god chases you around or hunts you, and funnily enough. And it has its offsiders, which are aspects. It's quite powerful if it catches you and attacks you. It releases cataclysmic powers across the map. It unleashes its armies against you. So it's a very, very tight game. It's very.
So is this it's a competitive game? You're trying to outmine your opponents, but then it becomes sort of adding like a PVE element. Now everyone's got to deal with this god that is okay. All right, interesting.
Yeah. So it's PvP and PvE. You can. But that said, the PvP aspect of it is defensive. Generally, it's not a. There's no take that in the game.
Okay.
It's very militarily defensive, but that's it. It's a very tight game. I've developed a solo mode. I've developed a co-op mode, which I'm coming to enjoy just as much as the
Nice.
competitive.
I'm a big co-op fan.
Cool. I really enjoying the co-op mode, to be honest. The first few times I'm playing it, I'm like, will this work? I don't want it to seem like, a lot of gamers justifiably say this seems, they put in a solo mode and a co-op mode for sales.
Right.
And let's tack it on. And I don't want that. I want the solo mode and the co-op mode to be every bit as strong and engaging as the competitive.
Yeah, because
I think I've achieved that.
those solo mode players will come after you if you don't give them a solo mode.
Yeah, they absolutely will. And funnily enough, my preferred type of play is solo. I love playing solo. I've got over here. Can I turn the camera a little bit? Is that okay?
Sure.
I've got Jaws of the Lion set up just there. And also there's a couple of games there. There's one that arrived, New Kingdom Gardeners by a mate who's a designer of mine, Jack Dunbar, that arrived about a week ago.
Okay.
And there's another game turned up, a mate of mine by Ben Levy and Zach Roving, called Mantle of the Keeper, which is like an arena thing, but I've got to keep that out of sight because Santa's bringing that for my son and I. But yeah, I'm a solo well, not essentially. I do love competitive multiplayer, but I think it might be the dad in me, but I just love the sitting down, puzzling out, what to do in Jaws of the Lion or what to do in that. My wife and kids are going away in a few weeks, and I'm busting out this. Jason, I can't lift it up. Jason, can't help me. I've got Oathsworn.
Jeez, that's as big as Gloomhaven.
It's huge. It weighs about 15 kilograms. So I've got Oathsworn waiting for me, and I'm just going, oh God,
that's a solo game?
I mean, you can play it multiplayer, but I'm letting no one in the house. I'm just going to sit down and put it at the table and just, and that will be it. But anyway, getting back to my game, me. Hunter by God is, its genesis was sort of like, I came up with a theme. My co-designer, Alan Carey, he's a long-time gamer, very involved in the gaming industry. He knows distributors, and and he plays a lot of the medium to heavier games. Mm-hmm. And he was the guy, I knew him from conventions, pop culture conventions, when I was doing the list. We became mates. And he was the man I went to saying, look, I've got an idea for a game. Do you want to do it? And he said, yep. Not straight away. I think he said what it's about. What's it about first? I think he said that. He didn't say yes straight away.
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually, yeah. And that was 2018, and the game has gone through massive iterations, huge iterations. For example, these are the notebooks. So that's a new notebook. That's from 2021.
Wow.
And I have
those just for 1 year?
2020, so nearly 3 years.
Wow,
that's 3 years of notes there. That's the solo notes, the competitive notes, and also the notes from play tests and all that sort of gear. And we started to work on this game. He has a very good understanding of breaking a game down, where I tend to add and sometimes he needs to rein me in, and I completely understand that. But sure. We took it around to, we really wanted to throw it out there with regards to giving it to, putting it before veteran gamers, not just friends and family who will go, that's delightful, dear.
Yes, yes.
We wanted to here, what do you think? And they, while in its early iterations, obviously there was a lot of problems. Generally, I think it was the fundamentals of the game that appealed, and the theme. So it's not a heavy game, but it certainly has a tactical aspect of it, which people, it doesn't drain you. Afterwards, you're like, okay, I could play that again.
Like, how long is the play?
I have managed to cut it down once you know the game. Once you've been playing it for about 9 years, I think you could get. The average game is around about the 2 hour mark. When I first start playing it, obviously with a new group, and generally it's on TTS because a lot of international players. Mm-hmm. Going through the teach and that, it's it can be 3.
Right.
But second game, it's because when I'm on TTS, I've got to teach each individual person. I've got asymmetric empires, and they've all got their own powers. They've all got their own tech trees. They've all got their own ways of gaining resource. They've all got their own everything. And then obviously I've got the movement of the god. I've got the god's powers. I've got the explore cards. I've got how the resources work, how you acquire tech, how you spend tech. So there is a reasonable amount to it. That said, I'm no Mensa candidate, so if I can make it, people can understand it. It's not. I didn't. We always set out to keep it from being heavy. We didn't want it to be a heavy game, but we wanted the weight to reflect its theme. I don't think a lightweight would be
right.
Hunter by God is you want it to be of a reasonable weight and heaviness.
I think I saw somewhere you described it as a deep game.
Yeah. Thematically, yeah, and I think play-wise as well. I noticed the interesting thing about doing playtests is that you'll come across a new player. He'll do something in a game that you've never seen before. Sometimes it requires a lot of notes and changing, and you never speak to that person. No, okay. But it's so interesting to see them come up with something that they found a new angle in something you've created and not being able to anticipate. And thematically, what Alan and I tried to do was implement mechanics that reflect the theme and reflect the development of the game or the progress of the game as you play it. So when you're mining, you're pushing your luck,
Right.
and also you're acquiring tech. The more you mine, the more tech you acquire to spend. The mines can collapse, which attract the attention of the gods. It's very tight. Like each empire has its own distinct look and minis and artwork and player mats.
I was looking through some of the artwork and some of the miniature models, and I kind of dig that. I'm a sci-fi type person, but I kind of like how it's the some of the mechs are obviously mechanical, but they have like a organic, like a multi-legged, almost like a
like a
bug
spider.
type thing. And I kind of dig on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, cheers. It's Alan is a big fan of the cosmic horror, and I think part of the appeal he loves. Part of the appeal of when I sort of pitched for a bit of word, Hunter by a God to him, because I really wanted him on board. Was he's a big fan of Cthulhu, and he plays like the others, and he plays Arkham Horror and all that sort of gear. So his influence on the cosmic horror side of it has been very strong. So while you're right, we do have the sci-fi aspect, there's also the cosmic horror aspect where obviously the god and one of our empires is sort of psionics. You got 40-foot robed guys, and they're not mechanical. They're spirits, and they've got a god that's a whisperer, and the stronger they are as representatives, the quieter the whisper they can hear. So that's just little touches like that where we've really invested a lot into the theme, because we want the game to be as immersive as possible. And so you don't really, obviously you feel you experience the mechanics, but they're not first and foremost.
Right. I mean, theme is important.
Yeah.
Sort of like I keep attributing it to Shakespeare, but it's not him. But someone who knows a lot about literature said there's like 7 basic plots in
Stories.
like drama.
Like fish out of water and
hero's journey, stuff like that. The same could almost be said for board games, but yet with literature, there's millions of books, and there's a lot of good ones. And I found that with games that a lot of times the theme and the story really has a lot to do with if the game is good or not. I mean, mechanics. Mechanics are fine. You have to have the mechanics. The mechanics have to work, but it's really how you dress up those mechanics. In plot and theme and art and stuff like that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. I mean, any board game can be a piece of paper and some cubes that you push around. You could use rocks out of your garden. But you're right. I think part of the appeal and the strength of the hobby is derived from people will just buy it for the artwork. People will buy it for the minis. And while I think we do have a strong enough showing in those features of the game, that wasn't first and foremost. We wanted the game. We wanted to be a strong game.
So
you're not going to put 5 years into a game development and then rely on minis and art. You may as well. You can just put a year in, just pay an artist to come up with something good and whatever.
So did the mechanics come first on this, or did the theme come first on this?
Theme came first.
So theme came first. Because I've talked to some people I talked to a couple of designers who were like, well, we wanted these mechanics, and we wanted a game where people did this, and then they had to think, okay, what kind of world would this be possible?
But I understand.
But and the way you did it makes more sense to me, that you come up with the theme and the story first, and then mechanics come second.
Yeah, I think it maybe derived from, the fact that I was a writer beforehand, and crazy crap goes through my head, and one stuck as a board game. Yeah, and we designed it, like the theme came first, and we designed it. We designed or implemented mechanics around that. We have quite a few what I like to think are mechanics I haven't seen, mechanisms, what do you call them? That I haven't seen before, or they might be twists on it on an existing mechanic. But yeah, you're right. It's a type of thing where I think being sort of having a narrative sort of brain, for lack of a better phrase, writer, can't speak. Writing's different. Writing's different. Okay, you can take your time.
Yes.
Is that I think it was very maybe natural for me to be like in Hunter by God. There's two styles you can play the game. You can play it straight rounds, where you just have essentially there are 5 rounds, and there's 6 phases within each round.
Okay.
And most of them can be played simultaneously to speed it up. You can play it in 2 ways. Yeah. So you've got. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. You can play it straight rounds 5 times over 5 rounds, or there's another version which I've called narrative, where you basically land on a planet. You do your mining. The guide chases you around, and then at one stage of the game, the guide releases a blight and takes away all the resources. And there's only one resource left in the center region, which is the portal, which is the home of the god. And everyone sort of warps into the portal and tries to mine from this final resource as the god and its aspects close in. So there is a narrative arc in the entire game. And getting back to what you were saying before about the 7 different types of story, I mean, I think there's a sort of element of that in board games where there's only so many mechanics, but it's what you do with them to support your theme and enhance your theme. And then you get games like Azul and Splendor, which are pure theme, or Castle of Burgundy, which all brilliant games, but obviously, theme that wasn't their overriding concern.
Yeah. I mean, some of those games are just there's games that are genius in their complexity, and then there's games that are genius in their simplicity.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've ever played The Mind. It's just a card game where you're trying to put out cards in numerical order, and you do it without talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That sounds like a form of psychological torture.
It's like one of the simplest games I've ever played. But it's like it's just such a wide gambit. It's really interesting to see. I kind of like them along the whole spectrum. If I'm going to play a competitive game, I want it to be a quick, short game. If it's a co-op game, I love dungeon crawling with my friends and stuff for hours and hours.
So. What sort of games you prefer there?
Gloomhaven's a fun one.
Oh yeah.
Gloomhaven got us through the pandemic because we had just started playing in person, and then everything went in lockdown around here.
Yep.
And so, my buddy delivered our little character packets, to our houses.
Yeah.
And I'd set up a Zoom, and he would have like his phone pointing down at the game, and he'd have his computer, talking, and we'd have our.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I guess
that's really cool.
We might have been able to find it on some board game simulator, but it's like, we just want to do it. And so we played that like through the whole pandemic. Like,
awesome. And you probably, you only had 3 years, so you probably didn't complete it. It's a monster. And what about Frosthaven? Are you moving on to that?
Not yet.
Okay.
With doing the channel, we do so many games that we don't have time to really go back to some of the ones that we're really trying to focus more on just getting together. Every year we do like a gaming weekend where 6 of us will go away for 4 days,
man.
game.
Awesome.
It fell through this year. Weren't able to do it, but it'll be back. But now that everyone's on home for Christmas holiday, we got a bunch of game days
Yep.
set up.
Bliss, beautiful. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I think you need it. I think you need it. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure. I want to get out the Cosmic Encounter. I picked that one up at Gen Con.
I would
Like,
love to play that. Sounds mad.
yeah, I played it when it first came out in like 1978,
Oh,
and I just saw it in Gen Con like 2 years ago, and they remastered or whatever
yep,
it,
yep,
and I'm like,
yep.
I'm gonna get that's really got the nostalgia factor, going for me.
Yeah, like games like that, it's still, they must have been so out of the box back then.
Yeah,
Um, pardon the pun. Like and June, the original June is still around, and the Trader Mechanic and apparently Cosmic Encounter, which I haven't played. It sounds like it's got rules that break its own game.
yeah, it's
Or
just so
you
weird
know,
because some of the powers in that game, I think they had to get rid of some that were just way too OP.
right?
Yeah, I noticed that the new version has some of the old school ones in it, but not all of them. You have to buy the expansion to get all the old school
Oh, of course you do.
powers.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
That's one thing. That's one thing we never want to do with Hunter by God is, you back the game because we're looking to launch maybe around August, September this year, next year. Sorry, nearly there. If it was this year, I'd be in trouble because it's gone.
yeah.
But what's the
You got
two?
2 weeks, buddy.
Well, like, yeah, I'm forgetting something. But it'd be is to like if you back the game, you get the entire game. This whole thing of holding things back, like hold back a solo mode or hold back a factional. I think that's really really low. That's devious. The people it's hard enough to get a game off the ground and get
Well,
it backing, but let alone turn around and do that. I don't get it.
I think that Kickstarter is really, I guess you could say, democratized game design and game publishing because
Yep.
now you don't have to wait for Milton Bradley or one of the big names to come out with something where they kind of make all the rules. You have a lot of independent publishers who
Oh,
are coming
oh,
out with stuff and they're getting it
yeah,
funded, through crowdsourcing.
yeah.
And I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
they have more of a, they're players
Yep.
before they are marketers.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, back when we did Road Warrior, we had to, the chance of getting off the ground was so slim. We were lucky. We
yeah,
were so fortunate that we sort of knew someone who got us to Mattel. Otherwise, they would have been like, nah, because I'd sent it to quite a few companies before.
okay,
And, you're absolutely right. Like I mentioned before, people like Dave Beck with Distilled, Jack Dunbar with, New Kingdom Gardeners, and
mm-hmm.
my friends Ben and Zach with Mantle of the Keeper. These are all great games that I've played. I'm like, it's probably very little chance that they would have been created. Like, and Hunter by God, Milton Bradley wouldn't touch Hunter by God. I'm not sure who would it have been, um, would it have been like who else is out there? I've blanked, but who did like Games Workshop wouldn't touch it, but is who did like Battle of the Bulge and all that?
Oh,
Final Fantasy Flight. Yeah, we got there. We got there. Yeah. You edit all that out, so we just look like we're snappy with the answer.
right.
Yeah, like how would I even get it off the ground? So, and you're right. These people are gamers, and they've probably been playing games for 20 years, and they produce something that's unique. And I mean, you look at games like, Gloomhaven held the #1 position, and Isaac was, that's his baby. He took like how many? I think, if I remember correctly, like 10 or 12 years to develop that.
Okay.
I think, and it was a #1 game on Board Game Geek. Above and beyond all the ones taken on even by the indie publishers or hobby
Yeah.
publishers.
I mean, Upper Deck will still be a big player always, but it's good to see it's out of the indie
Yeah,
players in there too.
yeah, yeah, and it's very rewarding. And I don't back heaps and heaps. I like the fantasy. I like the dungeon crawlers as well. Like I've Sworn, and I've got Tainted Grail coming to me, and obviously I've got Jaws of the Lion. So I've always loved fantasy. but yeah, like right across the spectrum, there's people bringing out everything from card games right to obviously the bigger ones I just mentioned. It's incredible. Really, really giving power to the creators.
Yeah.
Who are mad enough to do this. It's quite demanding. It's quite demanding. Getting the amount of hats, like you hear it all the time. The amount of hats you have to wear getting one of these things off the ground, because you're essentially starting a business and promoting an IP.
I mean, how's that? What were your expectations coming in now, based on your experience from 25 years ago? How different was it, or were you kind of ready for it?
I listened before. For some reason, I've always had an attraction to board games, even though I haven't played lots and lots and lots. I was listening to podcasts and watching a lot of YouTube channels just out of interest's sake. And they would speak a lot about the current industry. So I had an inkling, a tiny ignorant inkling of what it was like to come in. And now that, we're moving, like, I mentioned before, we're getting the art done and with graphic design and minis, then there's a legal side of starting the company and trustees and tax, and then you've got to consider, approaching publishers and going right through quotes and getting all the components right, and you got freight and warehousing and all these other games competing against you. Like, the competition is huge.
Yes, it's a double-edged sword. The Kickstarter thing, it's hey, it's great that we got these indie guys out there getting seat at the table, but there's a lot, and we're running out of chairs.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, and from my perspective, it's sort of like you look at it and go, "Whew, there's a lot of real good games out there." So you need a really good hook. I believe we've got a good hook, but then who knows? It may flop, it may do well, it may be middling, but as not to get too woo and zen, but to bring it back to being an artist, it's one of those things where you're driven by passion and driven by a vision of creating it.
Right.
And when I'm sitting here thinking of working on the game, I never think of the money that it could, or the success that it could make. I'm always focusing on the nuances of the game and the particular component, how, or where does that move, or what particular stat should that one, and change that from +1 to a +2. Oh no, back to a +1 6 games later.
Right.
And it slowly all comes together, and then sometimes you step back and go, oh, now I remember what I'm doing. I'm trying to start a business and produce a game, and luckily I've got an excellent, amazing partner in Alan, who is very savvy with the business side of things, and so
it's good to have that balance.
Great. I couldn't do it without him. Like, I'm not being sycophantic. I literally could not do it without him. So it's there was more than one reason to well, initially I asked him because he's so involved in the gaming scene and played a lot and all that sort of gear. But then once as we started to develop the game and go into the more business side of things, it was great to see, to realize how much of that side of things he had knowledge of. Because basically what his job full time was, he ran his own business making like 4 replica hammers, like hangers, is it Mjolnir? Captain American shields and all these props and everything, which he sold to people, which are incredible. So he kickstarted a lot of those, and he does his own writing, and he works with Paizo and Pathfinder and things like that. So he's got a reasonable, some licenses that he works with, producing different sort of properties for himself and for them. Drive-through games. He writes some scenarios for. I know he's heavily involved in the Call of Cthulhu and things like that. So it turned out it was just perfect choice for partner. And he's a funny guy. He's American. He's a British guy, and he's just got the driest, weirdest sense of humor. So it leaves me for dead.
Well, that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does someone connect with Hunted by a God? What's the best way for someone to back it, get updates, get involved?
Yep. Well, we've got probably the best place is the Hunted by a God group on Facebook. So we have a page and we have a group, but the group is where people can interact. It is a private group because we don't want just anyone joining and whatever else can.
Yeah.
So it is a private group. So, but we essentially let everyone in. It's got about 300 and something members at the moment, and it's quite lively. It's good. We've got a Hunter by God Discord, and we also have the Hunter by God landing page where you can subscribe to the email list. So that's essentially the three ways.
So at the website, is this on Kickstarter?
No, we're still we're planning to get our Kickstarter page up soon, but it's just a standard domain website. Hunter by God. I think the best way to look it up is /landing page. Yeah. HunterByGod.com. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put that other info down in the down in the description here, just so people can kind of follow along because.
Cool. That'd be appreciated.
That'll be probably a good place because if people are watching this 4 months from now, when things have changed and now it's moved on to a different place, they'll still be able to get directed there from.
Absolutely. Yeah.
From there.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's been super talking to you.
It's been fantastic, Jason. I'm very grateful. Really enjoyed the interview. I just felt like I was talking to a mate. So it was great. It was really cool.
I could go on. I could go on for quite a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
maybe we'll have part 2 in the future. We'll do a recap or something just before launch or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Excellent.
For everyone that watched, I want to thank everyone for watching, and make sure you check down in the description to get that info on how to get involved with Hunted by a God. Until next time, we'll see ya.